My name is Ashley Lawrence, and I'm the Executive Director of the Brazoria County Democratic Party. In a time where Texans need consistent, up-to-date, and reliable information about the ins and outs of Texas politics, Progress Texas fills that need. I rely on the Daily Dispatch to know where to put my focus, not only as a leader, but also as a Texas voter. The work being done at Progress Texas deserves our financial support, and that is why I became a supporter during the summer vacation membership drive. I encourage others to do the same.
It's Thursday, June 18, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch. Rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Progress Texas amplifies progressive values, leaders, and actions through our No Paywall podcasts and digital media. We reach millions of Texans monthly, and that's made possible by folks like you who invest in independent progressive media by Texans for Texans. Huge thanks to Marta Crawford, Lauren Pasek, and Angela Kaiser for their ongoing sustaining support. It's been a heck of a week for us here at Progress Texas with the 16th anniversary celebration and all, and another heck of a week is coming up next week with the Texas Democratic Convention in Corpus Christi. So we are quite grateful to have Juneteenth as a really good reason to unplug for a day tomorrow and to reflect on the reasons that this work is so very important. Most Texas progressives are familiar with the story of Juneteenth, but let me review real quick here. This coming from a news summary from History.com. The Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 is rightly recalled as a monumental declaration of human rights, but the proclamation's practical application was entirely dependent on a Union military victory in the American Civil War, and until that point, enforcement of it was impossible in areas outside federal control, which in 1863, Texas, the westernmost Confederate state, absolutely was. Texas became the last isolated stronghold for the institution of slavery as the war wound down following the Battle of Galveston, where Confederate forces successfully repelled a federal occupation. Texas became for enslavers from across the South a refuge, and many of them relocated here with more than 150,000 captive people in an active exploitation of geography to delay the end of slavery. So, as a result, official word of liberation didn't reach Texas until June 19, 1865, which is when Union Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston to enforce General Order No. 3, and even after that, the immediate freedom of over 250,000 here in Texas was fiercely contested, a great number of those freed people facing violent resistance against their release by their enslavers, who still considered them property and refused to give up that power. Texas became the first state to declare Juneteenth a holiday in 1979. See the link in the show notes for a terrific review of Opal Lee of Texas, the grandmother of Juneteenth and an icon of our state if there ever was one. In 2016, as you'll recall, Miss Lee, 89 years old at the time, launched an historic walking campaign to bring national attention to the cause of Juneteenth, traveling across the country, conducting symbolic 2.5-mile walks wherever she was invited. That particular distance chosen to represent the 2.5 years it took for the news and enforcement of freedom to reach the enslaved people of Texas. During these walks, Miss Lee garnered over 1.6 million petition signatures advocating for Juneteenth's enshrinement as a federal holiday. And that came to pass on June 17, 2021, when early in his term, and with Opal Lee standing at his side, President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law, the first time a new federal holiday had been created since Martin Luther King Jr. Day was established in 1983. Here's hoping you have a little time to recharge for the continuing resistance this Friday, and believe you me, there's plenty to resist, a sentiment with ever-increasing urgency for a growing number of far west Texas residents facing a permanent defilement of the Big Bend region in the form of a useless Donald Trump border wall. Uriel Garcia at the Texas Tribune says the Presidio Municipal Development District has filed a lawsuit highlighting a new angle on the threat. The Trump administration wants to modify the existing earthen levees that have successfully protected the Big Bend region during major floods since they were built with heavy concrete bases and 30-foot steel bollards. Local engineers say they believe that would structurally compromise the levee system and threaten catastrophic flash flooding capable of wiping out local agriculture, homes, and vital economic infrastructure in Presidio. Central to the locals' legal challenge is that the federal government bypassed mandatory statutory review by failing to secure required approval from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers before planning construction directly on top of a federal flood control project. And those same West Texas local leaders are warning that this reckless implementation of an untested physical barrier introduces severe, unstudied environmental liabilities to their community, one that has historically relied on the river as a shared space rather than a divider. There is an appalling degree of misdirection and misinformation coming from the Trump administration as cover for their border plans in the Big Bend region. And at Progress Texas, we encourage all of our folks from across the state to pay close attention to what's going on out there. As his party has collapsed into Crazyville here in Texas lately, Senator Ted Cruz has been laying somewhat low, but here's one to share. Stephanie Coython at the San Antonio Current says a data breach has stripped the secrecy from an exclusive invitation-only society called Dialogue, which was co-founded about 10 years ago by billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel. This data dump unmasks Dialogue's roster of powerful politicians, business tycoons, and intelligence figures. And looky there, Senator Ted Cruz, who chairs the Commerce Committee, which oversees data privacy, is on this list in chummy fellowship with the very corporate executives his committee regulates. This group deliberately avoids government email addresses in order to bypass public records laws and is set to host a retreat in Dublin this year, leaked agendas of which reveal a bizarre schedule of off-the-record breakout sessions covering topics like navigating World War III, battlefield technologies, how's your sex life, and build a cult, all paired with an exclusive matchmaking dating service for its attendees. Peter Thiel doesn't have quite the money or the largesse of Elon Musk, but to those paying attention is even more a nefarious tech bro supervillain. Thiel is a guy who openly believes that freedom and democracy are incompatible, runs a company dedicated to providing shadowy surveillance technology to the Trump machine, holds entire symposiums on the Antichrist, by which he means the stifling of technological disruption by progressive institutions, which in Thiel's mind would also somehow destroy individual freedom under the deceptive guise of promoting peace and world unity. This same guy is also apparently engineering exclusive elite matchmaking apps and cult-building seminars, and Ted Cruz is on the guest list. Also mostly under the radar lately, but looking to emerge, it would appear, is former Vice President Mike Pence, who emerged onto the campus of the University of Texas recently for a talk. UT Austin clearly happy to welcome Mike Pence while firing the general manager of the campus radio station for hosting Senator Cory Booker at their event, but I digress. Sammy Seaman at the Austin Chronicle covered the Pence visit to the LBJ Presidential Library at UT, and she says his focus was on the Republican Party's descent into Trumpian populism, urging Republicans to rediscover their conscience as a party. As one might imagine, Pence recalled the January 6th insurrection, in which the soundtrack was mostly a chant of "Hang Mike Pence," as, quote, a tragic day in the life of the nation, unquote. Pence gaining applause from the mostly conservative audience by saying, quote, the only heroes I saw that day were wearing uniforms, unquote. Pence has written a book on what he sees as a last chance for the GOP to pull itself back from the black hole of Donald Trump, in which he wants Republicans to return to Reagan-style conservatism and reject the politics of grievance. But when the big moment came, when he was asked to square that sentiment with the current Texas Senate race between Ken Paxton, the very picture of MAGA grievance, and Democratic nominee James Tallarico, Mike Pence collapsed. His host, Mark Updegrove, president of the LBJ Foundation, asked, quote, you threw your support to our incumbent Senator John Cornyn, and Donald Trump threw his support to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. If Ken Paxton asked for your support, would you give it to him, unquote? Pence paused, nervously looked at his watch, and gave a completely evasive and lame non-answer. Quote, well, let me say I'm confident that the people of Texas are going to do their part to keep that Republican majority in the Senate. I really am. But I think it's a mistake to conflate that with an endorsement of a change in the Republican Party's agenda on these key issues. Now the populist right wants to do that, unquote. And what the hell does that mean? Even Mike Pence, who arguably saved our democracy for the moment by not caving to a massive amount of Trump and MAGA pressure on January 6th, pressure that involved his own hanging, can't escape the trap that has ensnared his own party. We're excited to see everybody next week in Corpus Christi for the Texas Democratic Party convention on Thursday, June 25th. We're teaming up with the Texas Progressive Caucus for a warm-up happy hour from 6 to 8 at the Goldfish on North Mesquite in Corpus, and we'll be set up to hang out with you in the main vendor area throughout the convention at the Hilliard Center. Progress Texas is very proud to be the official media partner of the 2026 Texas Democratic Convention, and we can't wait to see y'all there. Also, this Saturday, June 20th, Progress Texas is putting on a live podcast taping with the Northeast Travis County Democrats, and you're invited to that. This will be a talk on the importance of environmental issues in this crucial midterm election year with Kaiba White, Climate Policy and Outreach Specialist with Public Citizen, Sierra Club Lone Star Chapter Conservation Chair Craig Nazer, and Save Our Springs Alliance Senior Staff Attorney Bobby Levinsky. This happens at 12 noon on Saturday, June 20th as part of the Netco Dems monthly meetup at La Palapa Restaurant in Northeast Austin. See the link in the show notes for details. Houston listeners, the next episode of our In Progress Roundtable show will come to you on the radio today in the middle of a new Thursday afternoon block of progressive political programming. In Progress starts at 6:30 p.m. every Thursday on KPFT 90.1 FM after the Progressive Forum and before the midterm show with Ernest Wittring. And it runs a second time every Sunday morning at 11 on KPFT FM HD2. With your support, we hope to expand our radio footprint beyond Houston this year. See the link in the show notes to make your tax-deductible donation to help us reach new audiences via Texas Radio. And while you're at the website, hit the web store. It's live and ready for you to grab the merch to match your progressive values. Newly released Humans Against Abbott, Y'all Means All for Pride Month, and Resist shirts, stickers, and buttons. Hit the web store at progresstexas.org to support your favorite podcast network today. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, June 18th, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. When lies in Texas are well funded by the far right, your support for fact-based reporting is needed and appreciated. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Once again, we're off for Juneteenth tomorrow, so we'll see you again here on Monday morning.